So great to be with you here on the Marketplace, of course, which is your home of NBL free agency news. We've been working our way through all of the teams and having a look at their depth charts, what they've got and perhaps what they need. But we haven't really had a chance to stop and reflect on some of the big issues of free agency so far. And to do that, I've got two men here that, well, to be honest, we have to keep them apart. We don't get them together very often because when we get them together, 1 minute they're best friends and the other they're enemies, and I can't keep up with either of them. Derek Rucker, Damon Lowery, great to see you for another edition of Derek versus Damon.
Hey, good to be here. The off-season, fellas. What month is this?
Hey, the good thing about coming into winter is that basketball will soon be heating up. So we have this to get through now and just kind of work our way. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of excitement and heads up, great job to the NBL front office for creating so many new initiatives that we have to look forward to in NBL 26.
Well, I've got a new initiative that I want to ask Damon Lowery as the chief personal trainer of this group amongst the three of us. Damon, when are you getting our man on this walk? Because it hasn't happened as yet.
You know what? It's so disappointing. I just thought with every day that goes by, we need one of those tickers. You know how it says it's been 35 days since something's happened? How long is this going to go on with Derek Rucker's integrity keeps taking a nosedive?
Look, I want to do it. I was advised not to try and do it, but check this out. Damon, I've been running. I've been walking. I've almost done enough kilometers to cover that distance.
You know what? And I'm proud of you too, man. It's about time you stepped it up. But you know what? If you could somehow accumulate enough Ks that would be the equivalent of that bet you made, maybe we can call it even.
Working on it.
I'm not sure the fans agree with that, but we'll get to that at a later date. Let's start, as I say, we're going to touch base on some of the key issues of free agency so far and what's to come. I guess we've got to start with Matthew Dellavedova and the Sydney Kings, and then what came after that, which was Kendrick Davis partnering up with Delhi. What does that look like, and will it work?
Oh, yeah, it's going to work. Don't doubt these guys. Look, you've got the two best playmakers, the two best assist guys in the competition from NBL 25. Kendrick Davis and Dellavedova are outstanding in looking after the teammates. The other thing they do not do is turn the basketball over. Now, the bigger challenge is going to be playmaking distribution. Although Dellavedova's been playing at a crowded Melbourne United backcourt for the past couple of seasons, so I think this is going to be a new lease on life for him to have more control of the basketball, even if it means having to share it with Kendrick Davis, who is a very ball-dominant guard.
There you go, Derek. Once again, getting gassed up on and seduced by talent. It ain't automatically, it's not written in stone that this is going to work. I'm leaning towards, and this is with all the respect in the world for KD, because, man, we all know how his game is. All the respect in the world for Delhi. Look, enough of all the compliments. We know who those two guys are. How do they mesh? They are two lead singers. You can't have two lead singers at the same time. Somebody got to play the backup role. KD is definitely not a backup guard. He's not playing off the ball. He's best with the ball in his hands. Delhi, on the other hand, is also a ball-dominant guard, not from a scoring point of view, but from a setup organizational point of view. I don't know how those two are going to work. You got an old head in Delhi and a young killer in KD. Look, I'm going to right now sit someone like you do on the fence and just say, I'm not 100% sold this is going to work.
Oh, it's going to work. Both of these guys understand what they're getting into. I'm sure there are enough conversations in the past 6 weeks where they have clearly laid out how this is going to look. And KD played a bit off the ball last season with Adelaide, especially late in the year when Jason Kidd was handling the ball a bit down there for the Sixers. Keep in mind, when KD was on the court, more often than not, the Sixers won basketball games. Okay, keep in mind the suspension that Montrez had to go through last year and how that impacted their season and their winning. And Dellavedova's mature. This guy's a consummate leader. He knows what it takes. And I just think they're going to be very strong. And Kendrick is looking for guidance, for leadership, for structure. And I think Dellavedova gives him that from a peer group perspective, and also the team, the Sydney Kings, give Kendrick that structure that I believe he needs to take his game to the next level.
That I agree with, because we know that the leadership of the 36ers wasn't conducive to a young guy starting out his professional career. Bit of a circus. Now you come into a stable environment like Brian Goorjian led Kings. You got Andrew Bogut on the staff as well. So no doubt about it, the stability is there. But I'm getting back to the playing style. And we haven't even mentioned yet that they are still without a big man.
We're not talking about the big man right now. This is KD and Delly. And look here, if I do have any concerns though, Jack, Delly's getting a little bit older now, and defensively, while his intensity continues to be high, the actual effectiveness wasn't as good last year. We started to see a little bit of slippage there. Kendrick was really poor on the defensive end individually, although he fights hard. So I think what the team will need is better defensive execution from both of those guys and keeping the ball in front of them and playing good percentage defense on their man.
So while we're on the Sydney Kings, let me just pose this to you, and you kind of touched on this already, Damon. Andrew Bogut, now a FIBA Hall of Famer, congratulations to you, Bogues, on the weekend, will be on the Sydney Kings bench alongside Brian Goorjian. What does this mean?
I feel like this could mean a couple of things. Yeah, and first of all, congrats to Bogues. Illustrious career, illustrious, well-deserved. To have him on the Sydney Kings coaching staff, that is the succession plan, Jack. Just like they do in the AFL when they bring in the next coach and he has him as assistant coach. Now, Bogut isn't there. Brian's not going to get sacked mid-season, anything ridiculous like that. But coaching is, you got to think about the future. And what better guy to lead the Kings into the next phase? Brian can get them reestablished after the Mahmoud Abdul-Fattah fiasco. Now, Goorjian kind of consolidates it. And then in a few years' time, maybe a year, maybe two, Bogues then takes them over the hump.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what the general consensus is. But what I might ask you, Damon, just to jump aside here for a moment, what's the succession plan for the girls 3x3 team going forward? Anyway, look, Bogues is going to provide them with outstanding defensive focus and I think add a perspective. And I noticed this in discussions with Bogut in our commentary. The way he sees defensive structure and schemes is so much different to the way that you and I see it, Damon. We see it from the outside in, whereas I noticed in discussions with Andrew, he sees it from the inside out. And that's a very rare perspective because most coaches and most players are perimeter based. So I think just that little slight adjustment will be really beneficial to the Kings. Offensively, I also feel that he's going to be able to add to the Kings structure and just give it a modern edge to it because they were poor last season. I think he'll figure out ways to change some of the angles of attack, how to incorporate the bigs. I think overall, just a little refresh of that Sydney Kings offense. Keep in mind, they were in the bottom half offensively in NBL 25 last season.
Oh, it's win-win. With Bogut in the league, it's win-win. From marketing, from culture point of view, from the knowledge, the overall team intelligence goes up exponentially. But he doesn't have any bigs to work with. That's the only thing. So Xavier Cooks is tired of playing center. They're going to have to Kelly LePepe. Yep, had a good rookie year. So, but if you give Bogut something to work with, obviously that's going to pay off dividends. Whether it's this year or next, it's definitely going to pay off.
Why don't we stay with the coaching flavor here? Because as it sits as of today, at the time that we record, still no coach for the Far North Queensland team that is the Cairns Taipans. Now, they have said publicly that they want to be patient, that they will take their time and make the right decision. But, I mean, the reality is, you two, we're midway through May and they still don't have a coach.
I mean, Damon, I remember at the Gazeys, the award dinner down in Melbourne back in February, the word was that Kerry Williams was going to be the next coach. Well, I'm not sure that word was accurate because if it was accurate and if he was the guy in line, then what's the holdup? Now we've heard Brendan Joyce. We've heard a bunch of names tossed around. But man, you got to name a coach so that free agents or whatever prospects you're trying to recruit, they have an idea who they're trying to play for. And as we approach the Vegas Summer League, clearly you can't go over to Sin City without a head coach trying to recruit players.
This is a total and utter, this is a damn shame. I don't know how else to say it. It has been 100 days today. I've been counting. I've been quietly going about it saying, what are they waiting on to sign a guy? Mark Beecroft, are you at home? Is anybody at home in Cairns right now? Because the last game, I think, was the 8th of February in Tasmania. All that time, it's been over 3 months, and you do not have a leader of that team. Straight away, the wooden spoon, I'm already giving it to you by default because it's just so late to the party. They somehow managed to sign Sam Wardenberg. I'm shocked that Sam decided to stay there based on no coach in place. Now, look, I'm all for being patient, all for not rushing into decisions, but this is bordering now on just total inefficiency and just neglect.
What would be the holdup potentially? It's very hard to us to say from the outside looking in, but yeah, it's hard to work out why there would be such a holdup.
Nobody wants to go there?
Well, I wasn't going to say that because Cairns can be an appealing place for a startup coach, but you got to have a little bit of this to make it appealing. And does a young coach want to go somewhere where they think they might lose? Maybe 15, 20 years ago, it was more appealing. Yep, I'm just going to go somewhere where I get an opportunity. Well, maybe every opportunity nowadays isn't a good idea if you're going to go up there and go 4-29. Or how many games we playing this year, Jack? 32, 33? Yeah, 4-29. You know what I mean, Damon? So that could be the end of the road for you. You have 2 bad seasons up there where you only win 10 to 12 games. I mean, just ask some of the coaches we've seen come through Brisbane in the past couple of years, how the rest of their coaching arc looks. It's very hard to go from losing to a plum coaching job.
Well, yeah, they're in two minds, I think. The coach the Cairns want to get, they want to make a big splash, but we've heard all the reports how Adam Ford did most of the heavy lifting behind the scenes running that team. It's just not coaching if you go there. So Cairns are not going to be able to get, in my opinion, an established winning coach to do all that stuff. They're going to have to go the young coach route, a guy like a Jacob Chance type, a guy who's looking to cut his teeth and start his coaching career and know he's going to have to get in the trenches for a little while, and hopefully it can then pan out down the track.
But again, Damon, that's my point. Is Jacob better as assistant coach going deep into the playoffs every season, learning daily from Dean Vickerman, being involved with all these high-level players and waiting a really good opportunity? Or does he take a flyer now and go to Cairns? If I was advising him, I would be patient, stay where you are, sit tight, better opportunities will present.
You could probably say the same thing for Joel Carlu, couldn't you, Damon, who's with the championship-winning Illawarra Hawks? I mean, I think he'd be an outstanding coach, but the same things probably apply to him, do they not?
Joel over there in Illawarra, he hasn't been there long. And that job, that's Justin Tatum's job for as long as he wants it. I feel like somebody like Jacob, he's already been in multiple assistant coaches in different programs. I think now I would advise differently. I would say it's time to jump in now and become a head coach. You can nobody wants to be a career assistant coach, to my knowledge. But if somebody like Jacob, with that kind of experience that he has, he's already led Australia in a FIBA window, it's time now, man, to see if you can plant your flag. Nobody's going to think any less of you if you don't win more than 5 or 6 games, because we all know what you're dealing with, but you got to cut your teeth somewhere.
And Jack, it's interesting you bring up Kalu, because I think with him being from that region, he is a better fit. He is someone who the Taipans should be trying to poach away from Illawarra and get him back there. We know there was some stuff that went on back in the day between Cairns basketball and Joel Kalu. Who knows what that is? That's all bridge under the water. But this is a guy who gained the trust of Justin Tatum pretty rapidly and played a vital role in turning that program all the way around.
Let me throw a scenario at both of you two here as we keep moving while we're talking coaches. At the moment, Justin Tatum is coaching in Indonesia. Must admit that wasn't on our bingo card, but he's over there and he's doing his thing. Josh King is currently coaching in Puerto Rico. Now, I don't know if you're staying across what's going on in the Puerto Rican League. We've got a lot of NBL guys there. Just so happens that Josh King is coaching Bryce Cotton. Just so happens that Bryce Cotton hasn't made any firm decision on his next move in terms of where he's playing. Does 2 and 2 potentially equal 4 here, or is 2 and 2 equaling 67?
First of all, if anybody over there in Puerto Rico finds a wallet with my picture in it, I got pickpocketed there a few years ago. Make sure you get it back to me. But, Jack, I think in this situation, 2 plus 2 does not equal anywhere near 4. And I'm sure that Josh would be making his case. But this, and they do need a point guard. Yes, the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, by all reports, Derek Rucker Jr. is not coming back. So, yeah, Bryce would be awesome, obviously back in the league and playing for anyone in the NBL 26. But they don't have the cash. They simply don't have the cash with where I think Bryce is asking for these days. So I just think it's just a couple of dudes who got the NBL in common to talk about in Puerto Rico.
But, Derek, it is interesting that Bryce still hasn't signed anywhere yet. And, you know, we've got to be glass half full with this sort of stuff. Like, until he puts pen to paper somewhere else, there's got to be a small slither of hope, doesn't there?
You would think so. And I'm not sure about the financial wherewithal of the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, but teams get really creative when they see something that they want. They find a few more dollars. It's like the pretty girl, Damon. She always gets kissed no matter the circumstances. And Bryce Cotton is the pretty girl. If he says that he's interested in coming to the Phoenix, they will do everything within their power to find the resources to get him there. And this initial process, even if it means nothing, Jack, it is a little something. Josh King gets to be around Bryce and not only learn from him, but to see if he's the type of guy that is worth pursuing for the club. Now, we know on court, that dude is still a killer. And I think, Damon, he's got 3 more years of NBL MVP type basketball left in him. And you got to get him now, though. You can't mess around and wait till he's 36 or 37.
Oh, I agree 100%. I mean, if Bryce is in the league next season, he's an MVP candidate once again. Josh King, if he can pull this off, would be the biggest coup in the history of NBL basketball, in the history. Now, let's just say Bryce can't get the coin he wants in another country. And then it's starting to roll around July, early August. He's like, you know what? What the hell? I'll come down to Melbourne for 1 year. What can you throw me? That would be incredible. Yeah, let's see what happens.
Yeah, let's see what happens with this one. Now, a couple of names that I want to finish off with. One is the Brisbane Bullets, Derek. Now, Damon, we've established that Derek's not coaching the Brisbane Bullets. That was a story for a hot minute there, but Stu Lash is going to take the reins. The James Bateman situation is an interesting one in the sense that he has been mutually released, but we're told that there is mutual interest in the two working together next season. So what are we doing here?
It's confusing, right? Because all season they talked about the great character and how good he was around the club and all that stuff. But then they weren't really willing to extend that final year, and they said it was mutual. But I'm pretty sure James Bateman probably wanted to come back here and stay under contract. I got to bring him back, Damon. I thought that he was a really good player once he figured out what was going on. And to find someone that can shoot the ball as accurately and with the volume that he did also, from what we saw in his 15 games or so here with Brisbane, he's worthy. He earned himself another opportunity. Now, you missed out on Dellavedova. I hope that didn't cause them to make some irrational decisions, because once you missed out on Dellavedova, that would have been the impetus for me to lock Bateman away. Just to know that I have some stability there in the backcourt, something that I know. But I don't know, maybe you see it differently.
Now, I'm with you. James Bateman, if his hamstring didn't betray him towards the back end of the season, he was already playing himself into some rock solid. I'm not going to say all NBL type because those two teams was already pretty much picked. But he's proven, like you said, the dude dropped 50. I mean, come on now. Ain't many guys outside of yourself. You know what that's like. So, and we've heard the promos that he would do with his family, how much they loved Australia. His dude was happy to be right here. But now, Derek, and I know you in tight over there, Stu Lash, I don't want this circus, man, to roll back into town. We saw what it was like a few years ago, man. I'm starting to get some circus vibes happening again. You lose Josh Bannon. I don't know. Even Isaac White's going back home to Adelaide. You got to get some stability. Casey Prather is back there for one season. And I'm looking at the Australian content, and who knows which way that's going to go. But if you can get a guy that's already proven in the league like a James Bateman, I don't mess around with that and bring him back immediately.
Especially when your team is so poor defensively. How do you change your defensive prowess? You're basically bringing back most of the same bodies who were no good on defense last year without adding any real defensive players. So if you're not going to be good on defense, then you damn sure better have a really good shooter out there on the floor like James Bateman. Now, maybe Stu Lash is a wizard on the defensive end as a coach. Now, I'm not sure that is true, but we'll find he'll have plenty of opportunity to show us what he can do defensively as a head coach.
Couple of quick hitters to finish off. One is Jordan Crawford. I ask you, Damon, because, of course, he is the president of the Little Big Men Society. Without a contract right now, has been totally balling out in the last month overseas. If you're Tasmania, are you getting him back? Or if you're someone like Cairns, are you looking at Jordan Crawford and going, let's go and get this guy?
Man, the human plutonium, he's over there being plutonic. The guy just scores at will. Yeah, I miss him already, but Tasmania is not a good fit for Jordan. Jordan came here and got a championship with him, but you can tell with the narrative, they're going to go with Shawnee Mack, fair enough, and they're going to probably bring back Milton Doyle. And yeah, I don't think it's a good spot for both parties for him to go back there. But I said on one of the overtime shows Derek did, I thought Cairns was the best fit for Jordan. A guy that can get up and down, man, and just turn it out on a nightly basis. Again, though, he needs a coach. So I think that would be an ideal spot. And if he wanted to be one of those guys that goes from country to country in the offseason, you can get your paper playing in two different leagues throughout the course of a season.
Well, Cairns or Brisbane, either one of those teams could really do worse than looking at Jordan Crawford very deeply for NBL 26. This is a guy, he's got championship pedigree, loves the game. He's great with the fans, can score the basketball. I think he has more leadership. I think there's more to Jordan Crawford, and you kind of alluded to this, Damon, than what we're always able to see given the structure of the Tasmania Jack Jumpers. And I just think we could see a guy who could flirt with an all-NBL second team award at the end of the season in the right place where he can kind of get out there and do his thing. But a Crawford and Bateman backcourt.
I like that. Lastly, Jalen Adams. Again, without a contract right now, he's obviously not going to go back to Sydney. We've spoken about that. Does he work in Perth or does he work somewhere else?
Damon, I think the thing that hurts Jalen is the demeanor and the body language. And I think people became so focused on that and so heavily into that, especially as the Kings' troubles really it was another flame out in the play-in eliminator. And he took the brunt of a lot of that stuff, even though I thought it was maybe disproportionate. But again, he probably doesn't do himself any favors. And I'm a big fan of Jalen. He's a highly talented player. But I think, the way he carries himself on the court probably wasn't to the liking of a lot of execs around the league.
Yeah, whether his style suits Australia, the mindset of the league, former MVP, champion, he took that Sydney Kings team that didn't have Xavier Cooks, didn't have a big man, and he did all he could. Like, he carried them. There was games he won by himself. No Jalen Galloway. So his talent is undeniable. Does a team want to start all over and build a relationship with him? I don't know if he had the greatest relationship with Brian throughout the course of the year. A guy like Jalen needs a special kind of relationship, I feel. Somebody like a Justin Tatum type guy that can really, I guess, get that trust factor, raise that trust level in him higher than what it probably has been. But at this stage, Jack, to answer your question, I don't see him and John really being that kind of a mix. So he might sit out NBL 26 and might end up somewhere else.
So the last question, which is just a bit of a stock take because we haven't had you two together for a little while. If you had to say one team who you believe has been the best performer during free agency so far, who is it and quickly why?
Sydney, the Delhi and KD signings are massive, but Melbourne United haven't done anything yet, and they're going to find themselves 3 imports in Vegas and totally change the way this conversation looks in a few months' time.
There you go. Always deferring to the shiny things. Illawarra Hawks, the defending champs, have re-signed Todd Blanchfield to a bigger deal, re-signed Sam Frawling, and his brother Harry is hanging around the peripheral, ready to make an NBL comeback. Justin Tatum is getting even more coaching experience over there with the Jakartians over there in Indonesia. And I'm telling you, that Dave O'Hickey is about to go play for the Detroit Pistons in the Summer League. He's going to come back even hungrier. Once again, Derek, you're just sleeping on the Hawks. I feel like they didn't make no big splashes, but they didn't have to.
Hey, I missed it last year talking about their bench, and that bench was highly determinant in winning that championship. And Dave O'Hickey, watch the noise that he makes in Summer League. I'm predicting right here that he's going to present a real awkward opponent for a lot of these American players. Watch Dave O'Hickey in Summer League.
Hey, Damon, did you notice how many times Derek mentioned Vegas, by the way? I think he'd clearly got something on the brain.
Yeah, he's mentioning all type of stuff. You got the trip planned over there, Derek?
No, maybe.
Watch this space, I reckon. Hey, great to get you two together. It's a chance for us to have a bit of a chat about some of the big issues so far, and we will do it again very, very soon. But thank you for joining us today on The Marketplace.
Not a problem.
Massive thanks to you for joining as well. Of course, nbl.com.au for the latest news and information. And don't forget to download the NBL app as well. It's all there. We'll catch you next time.